Hey everybody, it's the Trout and welcome to another episode of the Trout Show. Thank you so much for stopping by. You ever been listening to the radio or perusing the internet, or maybe you're doing some social media searching and all of a sudden a song that you forgot shows up and you start listening to it and you go, oh my goodness, I forgot that song, how much I liked it. Well, that's what happened to me recently when I heard this song and I said to myself, wow, that was a great tune. It's still a great tune. And the song I'm talking about is Captain of Her Heart. It was done by a band called Double. Two guys that went to the studio and recorded an album that did very well in the 80s. And now here it is, 40 plus, almost 40 years later, and the song is still iconic. Well, one of the people that helped write that and record it is a gentleman named Kurt Maloo. And I got the opportunity to speak to Kurt. He was kind enough to talk to me about the song, the history of the song, and what he's been up to since then, which of course is doing his thing, doing music. Now, this is not something you would typically hear me saying, and I'm a kind of a rock blues guy, and Captain of Her Heart is a long ways from that. But it's very iconic, it's very interesting, and I can't say enough about the tune. I was so happy that Kurt sat down and talked to me about it. So, if you remember that song, Captain of Her Heart, and you want to know the history behind it, or just interested in that kind of thing, well, you want to stick around and listen or watch this episode of The Trout Show, where we talk to Kurt Maloo, a great singer-songwriter that did Captain of Her Heart. That's next on The Trout Show.
The Trout Show is supported by David Smith with Edward Jones. David has years of experience of assisting individuals just like you with reaching their financial possibilities. There are times in our life that we come across financial problems and we don't know what to do. Maybe you had a relative that recently passed away and left you a large sum of money. However, you're not clear on what to do. If you live in the continental United States, I suggest you contact David Smith with Edward Jones at 469-372-1587. David can look at your situation and provide his expertise that he has been providing his clients for years. Don't tackle these situations by yourself. Contact David at 469-372-1587 to help you make decisions that are important to your financial situation. That's David Smith with Edward Jones at 469-372-1587.
I want to talk kind of reverse here. So, you are still in the music business. You've been doing it a lot, for a long time.
Not business, but I'm
you're
writing songs. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a musician. Yeah.
So talk about the difference between now than when your famous hit came out. What's the big difference? I noticed that I was on your YouTube channel. You still have quite a few followers. People say really nice things about your music. Does that keep you going? Do you perform any in Europe, or how do you keep going? I mean, as a songwriter myself, you want to just keep writing.
Yeah.
But your videos are well done. They're well produced. The songs are good. So tell me a little bit about what you do now.
Well, I always was a very slow worker, and now I'm really happy because there's no pressure. Nobody tells me you have to do another album or so. So I still write songs, and if I decide the song is now ready to see the light, then I release it. And I have this new format that's called Off the Record. So it gives me the opportunity to just release one or two songs or three songs at the time. And then I have a volume 1 out and have a volume 2, and maybe there will be a volume 3. But there's absolutely no pressure. I mean, at my age, I don't want to be, involved in producing, because you have to produce new stuff.
Yeah.
So
and it's so hard. It's so different than when you first came to the forefront with you and your partner. As you know, it's just changed dramatically. The music industry has.
Absolutely.
There's some good things about it. I mean, I'm sure when you did the song back in the 80s, it was recorded on tape. It had to be multi-track. Yeah, there was no digital back then.
No.
And we sat around when I did my first album in 94, my producer engineer, I pretty well knew what I wanted. I hired studio musicians to come in. And I knew what I wanted, but I didn't mess with anything because if you screw up a tape, it's gone. Not like, I mean, now with digital, you just go, oh, it's saved. I'll go back and do it again.
Yeah. Put that part in front and the other one, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And
you're pretty free, but also you have a lot of opportunities and you have a lot of options, but that's not necessarily good because, you know, we, especially with the Captain of Our Heart, it was like a very fast recording. We went to the studio. Felix came with a tape, with a cassette, and there was this Oberheim OBX-A we had, and he had this pad and he had the melody. And I immediately loved the melody because it was haunting, but I didn't like the sound. So we put down the pad and he programmed some DMX drum machine and this 8th bass, like do, 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 do. And at the same time, we were looking for a sound for the melody, but we couldn't find one. So instead of wasting time, the engineer suggested, why don't you use a very neutral sound like the grand piano, for instance, and then you can look later. Yeah. So he sat at the piano and he played it and he said, but it's just a guide, you know, it's not the final version. It's just that you can sing, that you have sort of a structure. And I was writing the lyrics at the same time. And then I sang the song. I put a little acoustic guitar in it, and that was it. And so the song was there, you know. And he wanted to change it afterwards and said, no, the melody is not final. We have to look for a more interesting sound. And the engineer and I had to convince him to just leave it like it is.
Yeah.
Because we heard that it's perfect. So this you don't have today, because today you can change and change and change until you lose track. I don't know.
And that's where the big difference is now, because I read stories about the pop stars here in America. They go in and change a syllable in a word or one word because they don't like it, and they'll keep doing it over and go over again. And the art of one person or two people writing a song is now a group of people that sit in, because if you got somebody like Ariana Grande, Taylor Swift, they bring 50 people in to write a song. That's not the way I've done it. But when you were sitting there, and it's kind of funny when you think about it, as an artist, I know when we perform and we record something, we always think our next one we do is better than the one we did before. At least that's what we try. We always go. We're trying to do better. But you had the foresight, I think, which is interesting to me, because that song, here it is, all those years later, still people would love it. There's you know what term space, it has a lot of space in it. So there isn't there's not a lot going in, and you're just sitting there going, what else did it need? It didn't need anything.
Yeah, that was it, because the record company it wasn't obvious to be a single at the time.
Yeah.
There were up-tempo tunes in the radio, and this is kind of a ballad. It has this middle part that was actually meant to be the second verse, but I ran out of lyrics. I just didn't know what to sing, so we left it open. And looking back at it, it's a very important part, because this melancholic, rather dark part prepares you for the melody when it comes back and the light comes in and it shines again, you know. So it has a function in the song. But we had to convince the people around us that this was just the way it should be. It wasn't, and
that's not always easy to do, because the labels back then were controlling everything, and your A&R people go, "Oh no," your producer's like, "No, I know it's better for you," and blah blah blah, and then you're like, "Okay." It is funny, because I think you can never ever guess what's going to be a big hit. I just don't think you can. You can. You know, you sit here and you listen. I mean, I've listened to a lot of music my whole life, and you think back in the 70s, what I listened to, even the 60s, I'm going like, that was a huge hit, and you're looking at it going, why was it a big hit? Now, it's just a silly little song. I'm not talking about yours, but I mean, it's just a stupid little song, and it sold millions of records. you
Especially
never
when
know
you
what
have a song that's a little bit out of a little
yeah.
bit beside the track, not the middle of the road thing.
Well,
Yeah,
and the other thing that was good with this was the video that goes with it is
there are
interesting. Yeah, I know. I've
three
seen all
videos.
three of
Yeah.
them, but they're all interesting
Hmm.
because you're listening to the song. It's like, all right, what's this? What's the story here? Kevin of her heart. Is it she upset? Does he like the guy or not like the guy? And then you put in this stuff that kind of is like, because I remember when MTV came out, we just watched videos just because we wanted to see how silly they were. I mean, we just kind of, oh my God, look what they're doing here. And at the end we go, what does it mean? We don't know. It just like they threw a bunch of stuff up against the wall and filmed it. But with that song, I think that the videos go, well, obviously goes with the song. And that's a timeless thing. Because I read comments of what people say still about your song. When was the time, though, when you realized that you had this hit on your hand? How long was it out before you went, wait a minute, this thing's taking
Well, the album was released in 1985 in Germany in end of August, and it immediately went to the charts. But the record company said, "Oh, that's bad because the single has to chart earlier."
Yeah.
We didn't understand the mechanism. Felix and I were happy. The album is in the chart, so people think
Sure.
there are many songs that are worth buying. Yeah, but they really had to work on the single, and until we had a TV show, a Saturday night or Saturday late evening show, that was the breakthrough. But before the radio stations, they were shy on playing it. And then it went fast. Then we had.
Oh yeah. Well, they're all in. They're all in when it happens.
Yeah. And they always knew. They knew before.
That's the other thing. Oh, we knew it was going to be big. Oh, yeah. Bring him on in. Bring him on in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not something you can't. And I've seen. I think there's maybe one or two live versions out there. I don't know which one, but it's not something you can easily replicate. I think. I mean, because there's a lot of nuance in the recording that you can't replicate live. Because it's just the sound that you get. You can carry it over. And whose idea was it to put the sax player in there?
Oh, it was a mutual decision actually, because it's a friend of ours, and we brought him in to play all over the whole album. He played also some flute on "Woman of the World" and a tenor saxophone on "Tomorrow." And he suggested that the saxophone player suggested the soprano sax for the captain, and it was perfect. Yeah.
I always think about people like yourself that have a hit, and then you probably sit around and go, "What can we do to make it bigger the next time?" And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, they always say this, sophomore album is not as good as the first because you had your whole life to write it. And people that have sustained over the years, they continue to write good stuff. And it's not easy to do that. You and I both know that. I mean, because you have a hit like you have that's still played. And isn't it in some movies and things like that too? People are still using it for sync libraries, or are they still using it any place else, or is it just being played a lot because it's one of those songs that people want to hear?
It's been played a lot. It's still in some worldwide on radios, and we had some commercials also with the song. But it became sort of a classic, not a top classic, but
no, but it is.
It's yeah.
And it's funny how I loved the song the first time I heard it, and I'm a rock blues guy, so it's you crossed over. But I also like Beethoven and a lot of other people. But it came across my algorithm because I'd forgotten about it, and I went, "Oh man, I haven't heard that song in a long time." And I sat down and listened to it, and I went, "Oh God, I love this song." And that's I don't think that's nostalgic, Kurt. I think it's when you write something good, it bears witness the fact that you can keep it going for a long time. But that also adds to your ability to, as a musician, because here you got this, and I always wondered too about, did you get to the part in fame with your band, so to speak, that people recognized you? Were you well known? Or did you ever hit that and go, wow, this is cool, I got a record, but nobody knows who I am, that's pretty cool too?
Well, the video was played on MTV, and we made a lot of TV shows all over Europe, and especially in Italy, we made like the biggest show in the country, together with Sting and Duran Duran. So everybody watched it, and also in France we did this Sacré Soirée at a Saturday night, 14 million people watching it. So when you go out, they recognize you, yeah. But it wasn't like, no screaming fans.
No.
Because we had and we weren't that young anymore. All the other bands we met on these, it's like a circus, when you do promotion, you have all the people that are in the charts right now. And we were the old guys because we were 32 and 33.
Oh yeah, they were all early 20s. Yeah.
Early 20s, yeah. So we were more like settled, and our audience was also students and adults. Yeah. No teenagers.
So, I've read your bio, read about a lot of stuff about you, which I always spend a lot of time reading about the people I interview, but you stayed keeping music going because that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still like doing what you do? I mean, obviously that's a silly question, you probably think, but you're still putting music out, you're still videos out.
I mean, honestly, if I wouldn't like it, I wouldn't have to. I could just read books, what I do, but I could just keep making music. But it's something that I really love, and also writing songs is something that from time to time I have to write the song. It comes, and it has its own life. I can't sort of and I do it. And I'm in a very comfortable position that I can release something when I think it's good. It's the way it has to be, and there is no pressure. I mean, I'm a lucky guy.
Well, and I remember hearing decades ago Mick Jagger saying, "I don't want to be singing. I don't get no satisfaction when I'm 80 years old." Guess what he's singing? So even though you haven't, you had that huge hit, you still can do what you want to do because people can go back and listen to it. And and I think also you probably see a new generation of people that hear it. I think your music, I think, is more, it's more timeless. I really believe that because you're not trying to fit in a niche, because that's what people wanted you to do. Like you were talking about the record label, they don't like this and changes and all that stuff. But now you're in a comfortable position because the music industry's changed, but also you can write what you want to write and you don't care. I put out what I think is a good product. I get my friends to come in the studio. We do it. We shoot the video. I love it. Let's go on.
Yeah, from the production, our first album wasn't a really 80s music. We use synthesizer, but you don't really hear it. We use a lot of acoustic instruments, a lot of jazz influences, and so it doesn't sound like the synth pop groups of the time.
No.
So we don't have this label. Double is an 80s band. Of course we were, because it was produced at the time, but it didn't sound like that. So that's why this is an advantage now. That is sort of timeless.
Think about it's timeless. But think about when you started. You and I started about the same age playing guitar. I saw where you started around 11 or 12. That's when I started.
Yeah.
I wanted to do it because of the Beatles. Beatles were all playing guitars, and I still remember going through all the pain. It's like I could never play an F chord. My fingers would never. And now it's like, but a bar chord. Oh, come on, your fingers will never work that way. But your song, you started out playing guitar, but the song that made you famous with your partner is a piano song. I mean, it's got guitar in there at the end. You got a little rhythm guitar sitting and stuff, and do a little thing. But that's not where you weren't a guy that goes, okay, I'm going to play guitar and everything's going to be guitar based.
Yeah, but I mean, I became famous for singing, not for
you have a unique voice, which makes it cool, dude. I mean, let's just face it.
And I can live with that. It's okay. I mean, I am a guitar player, but I always played the guitar in school bands, and I was always the guitar player, and it was usually the guitar player who was the singer, either him or the bass player. So then was the time when I started to sing, but I had a complete different voice. I found my voice, I found while recording the album Blue, because we were looking for different microphones that suit my voice, and there was one, a Bayer, not made for vocals. Actually, you can record drums or violins, anything that has a small range. But if you sing close to the mic and in a soft tone and smooth, it was perfect. And so I used this microphone, and I had to sing lower in volume because we had a live band before Ping Pong, and if you're on stage and you're a real live band, you have to sing loud. There wasn't these kind of compressors that we have now.
Oh yeah,
you had to have a powerful voice, and so I found a new way of singing. So I became a crooner, and it's much more natural for me to sing like that. So I found my way.
And the other thing about it is you have your own style. So when people know that, they already know what they're going to hear when they hear a song by you.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, they know your voice. As soon as you start singing, they I know who that is. And I like that, because all the time I was in bands, my wife would always say, you don't really have a rock voice. And I don't. So the last one, so what? And I'd rather write stuff that I could use my voice in, but I've switched, because now my stuff is all instrumental, because I got to the point where I just got tired of, okay, I can write a rock song. I'm a pretty damn good guitar player, but then it gets to a point like, okay, why am I writing a rock song? I love playing guitar. Now with all the synthesizers and all the stuff I can record with, I can just put an instrumental out, and nobody cares how old you are when they hear an instrument.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
They don't listen to it and go, that guy's old. Why am I listening to? Or if you bring out a song like, if you look at all the people that I admired, they're all getting up there in age, because I'm getting up there in age. Even
but playing rock, you can be old, no?
Well, anymore you can't. I mean, all the people that I grew up listening to are still around. But that's what I think in your situation, your uniqueness makes it better. I know in the business back in the 80s and the 70s, everybody wanted to fit in, and that's what A&R people do. Oh, you're like so-and-so. Oh, you got to be like this. And I don't know what they do now. Now, the last time I talked to anybody, I talked to a lot of musicians, but they go to TikTok and watch TikTok to see who's famous on TikTok, and they hire them for one or two, and then that's it. With you, it's kind of like the famous Irish, I think she's Irish, Enya, that plays that soft, that kind of music that you know what you're going to get out of her. You're not going to be singing a rock song.
No, I can't. I mean, I have a very limited voice, so
that's what's so cool about it. I mean, it really is. That gives you the uniqueness that not everybody can have. Because if you do something, that's the hardest thing too, is when you're writing a song, we all tend to write it. I don't anymore. When you're younger, you tend to write, what do you think people are going to like? That's what
or
you
what
do.
you like.
Or
There
what
are
you like.
bands
Yeah, yeah.
that you love, and then you try to sound like them. With Ping Pong, the band we had before, we were like we really loved the way Police was because we were a trio as well, and we liked the energy they had and the way they were playing. So there were a lot of influence from Police, but when Felix and I uh, were just the two of us, when the bass player left, we had to reinvent ourselves. We had to look for something completely different, and that's why we started to experiment. I mean, the first maxi single, it sold 44 copies. It's great.
It's funny how we remember all that
when
stuff.
when the record company comes to you and they say, "Oh yeah, you sold 44 copies, so great." I mean, I could sell them at the corner in my street. I don't need a record company for that. But anyway, there was a long way to the album Blue, and yeah,
But you didn't give up.
yeah, we didn't give up.
I think the thing that I've noticed of all the people that I've interviewed, and I've interviewed hundreds of people, they don't give up. Especially, and I like young artists because they're driven, and you can see the drive in them. And people that I've interviewed that have gone on to become very well-known artists or famous in their own right took a chance somewhere along the line. And it's not like, I always tell people, it's not like you got in your car and drove 180 miles an hour. It's like you took a chance. Like I took off this one night to play at this bar, or I did this, or I just stood up in line until they said, yes, go on stage. You guys didn't give up either. It took you a long time. I mean, you weren't, and that's the other thing everybody goes, when you hear you make it and you're on TV at the time, MTV, and you're watching yourself and they go, oh, that guy just came up like last week. And you're like, no, dude, I've been.
No.
It's taken a long time. But that's the other thing. You never gave up. And here you are, you have this thing that you can always look at and be proud of it. So do you still do any performing live? Do you still do some?
Not at the moment, but I have a band like on and off with musicians from here and from Berlin, and I played in Moscow, I played in Zurich, I played in Germany a lot. Yeah, but no touring,
Oh yeah, but you can kind of pick and choose where you want to go. You just
yeah.
That's kind of nice. And the other thing that's interesting to me is the fact that your song was written in English. I mean, here you are in Switzerland, which is either German or Swiss. I know enough about that. And you do a song in English that takes off. But at the time, I guess everybody was kind of doing that. And now you have your style.
The important thing is that your signature song is not something you are embarrassed of. that you can grow over.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
There's some like that, and you think, I don't know. I'm famous for doing this song. I don't know really want to do this because I'm not. I'm a little embarrassed about that. So as you go along your life now, you just can do what you want to a certain degree. In your music. I think that's a great place to be when you get a little older. Like me, I do this for fun because I like interviewing and talking to people just like you. And I talk to a lot of different artists all over the world. Some of them are well known. Some of them are independents that are trying to be well known. And one of the things I like seeing is people that are on their way up. And I get to enjoy the rise as they continue to get bigger. But then people like yourself that have lived it and had that opportunity to get the golden ring, that somebody never had it, I never had it. I admire you for that because of the fact that you did have that opportunity. But now you can keep doing what you're doing and enjoy it.
Oh, I'm aware of that. I mean, I'm very lucky. It could have been completely different, yeah. And this song opened so many doors for us and for me later. I'm thankful for that. But sometimes I wish I could see my whole work without the captain of her heart.
Yeah.
Just to look at it. It's like the sun. When the sun is shining bright, you don't see the stars. So it's shining too bright, actually. And it would be nice just to have to look at it, my entire work, without the captain of her heart, and then judge it. But that's not possible.
It's kind of reminds me of playing. I always wanted to be a guitar player that sang. And I've been in bands for decades, a lot of different bands. And so when people hear, and I was in corporate America for a long time, so people see me in a suit, and I'd ask them to a gig. And I just want them to go, God almighty, he's a great guitar player. All they talked about is, I didn't know you could sing. And I'm going like, what about my guitar playing? Nah, it's okay. So it's kind of like with you, and I understand that completely when you say, what about all of this stuff over here I've done? Okay, this is a great song. What about all this over here? And you're right. You wish you could just go, I'm going to slice this out of my life. Now just take a look here. Because you don't stop writing. And it doesn't mean any of the other songs are not as good or better. They're maybe and better, but they don't, people, it's just the way it is.
The way it is, yeah.
And at the end of the day, nothing wrong with that.
No, of course not. And especially with a song that has been, now it's almost 40 years old, people hearing it's not just a song, it reminds them of their youth. And that's something you can't top, because they were happy when they were young, they were beautiful and everything. And this song reminds them of a time where they were like stronger, whatever. So it has a bonus. Compared to other songs, to new songs I write, and that's okay.
I think, and you're 100% right, because people listen to why do people go and see bands that they're almost tribute bands now because almost all the artists are not together again. But why do people spend hundreds of dollars to go see the Eagles? Mm-hmm. Or why do people still see the Rolling Stones? Because they still remember back when they were younger. And go, oh, I remember when Sympathy of the Devil's out. Mm. Oh, I was driving my car. You get that generational thing. Mm. And if you'd sat down at the time, it'd be interesting if you could go back in time and sit there in the studio with you guys and go, hey, guess what's going to happen? 40 years from now, they're still going to be talking about your song.
They will write you and tell you, oh, that's the song of my mother loved so much. Yeah. That's what's happening to me right now. Oh, my mother would love it.
And you're like, oh, yeah.
Okay. Say hello to your mother.
She still couldn't fall asleep. This night the dream was leaving. She tried so hard to keep. And with the new day's dawning, she felt it drifting away. Not only for a cruise, not only for a day. Too long ago, too long apart, she couldn't wait another day for the captain of her heart. As the day came up, she made a start. She stopped waiting another day for the captain of her heart. apart. She couldn't wait another day for the captain of the heart. Wait another day for the captain of the heart. As the day came up, she made a start. She stopped waiting another day for the captain of the heart. She couldn't wait another day for the captain of the heart.
Well, that's it for this episode of The Trout Show. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate it very, very much. A very big special thanks to Mr. Kurt Maloo for coming on and talking about Captain of the Heart and his history with double and all his great music. He continues to write some great tunes. I suggest you go find his website. That's Kurt Maloo, KurtMaloo.com, Kurt Maloo. And also, I'd like to thank once again our supporter, David Smith with Edward Jones. Thank you, Mr. Smith, for continually support our efforts to make music available to everybody. And of course, if you need to know more about The Trout Show, remember, all you got to do is go to our website, thetroutshow.com. You can find everything you need to know about episodes, including YouTube and podcast and new music coming up. We're releasing a new album in February of next year. And I want to let you know that The Trout Show podcast is heard in 90 countries and 2,411 cities. So thank you all for listening. It's very much appreciated. And until the next time, people, you know what I always say. It's only rock and roll, but I love it. See ya!